All right, everyone get ready because today we are going deep on a book called The Future of Cities.
Ooh, the future of cities.
Yes, and it's by Dr. Fatima Barbara Heggie.
Okay.
And let me tell you, this book kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's packed with all these like data-driven strategies for tackling these huge urban challenges
Mm-hmm.
that we all face, like sustainability, health education, you name it.
I mean, those are some big ones, right?
Yeah,
I mean, those are some really big
they
ones.
are. But you know what's really refreshing about this book?
What's the name?
It goes beyond the usual buzzwords.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Because we hear those a lot.
we do hear those a lot.
Yeah.
Dr. Heggie, she argues that like true urban sustainability, it hinges on social progress.
Interesting.
It's not just about like green buildings and efficient transportation.
Right.
It's about people.
Well, that's good because people live in cities, so
Yeah, exactly.
it's good to focus on the people.
And the way she connects social progress to these like huge challenges. Like, have you ever seen those crime shows where they use data to predict where the next crime will happen?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
It's like that, but for social good.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Using data to kind of create a roadmap for a better future
Hmm.
for cities and the people who live in them.
Hmm. I love that.
But before we get too deep, I have to ask,
Yeah.
did you know Dr. Heggie's also an artist?
I did see that. I was looking at the book cover.
Yeah.
And I thought, wait, is that
She painted it.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it makes you wonder, does her like artistic eye influence how she sees data?
Like, does it make her more creative in finding those unexpected connections?
Right.
Huh.
It's like a reminder that data isn't just like cold, hard numbers.
Yeah.
It's a way of understanding the human story of a city.
Yeah. The human story.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
And speaking of human stories, one of the things that really struck me was the book's emphasis on using the EU Regional Social Progress Index.
Okay.
So it's not just about economic indicators, it's about measuring things like access to healthcare education levels, even personal safety.
Okay, so break that down for me. What exactly is the EU Regional Social Progress Index?
Yeah.
And why should we care?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
What is it?
Yeah.
Well, it's essentially a scorecard
Okay.
for how well a region is doing in terms of social progress.
Hmm.
They gather data on a whole range of factors, not just economic ones.
Okay.
And they crunch the numbers to give each region a score.
Okay.
And the cool thing is they map it all out.
Oh, wow.
So you can see visually where there are strengths and weaknesses.
So you can literally see where social progress is thriving
Yeah,
and where it's struggling.
exactly.
Right. But,
And that's incredibly valuable for policymakers because it helps them target resources where they're most needed.
okay.
Instead of just throwing money at problems blindly, they can use this data to make more informed decisions.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So the EU Regional Social Progress Index,
Yeah.
it gives us the what like the current state of social progress.
Oh.
But what about the how?
Yeah, how do we use it?
Yeah, how do we actually use this data to tackle those grand challenges?
Well, Dr. Heggie lays out a pretty compelling framework.
Okay.
She argues that we need to move beyond simply collecting data
Right. We have to use it.
and actually use it to drive action.
So it's not just about measuring things, it's about making things happen.
Exactly.
I like that.
And she breaks it down into a few key steps.
Okay.
First, we need to identify the specific challenges we're facing.
Okay.
That seems obvious.
Yeah.
But it's important to be really specific.
Okay.
Not just poverty,
Okay.
but what kind of poverty? Where is it concentrated?
Uh-huh.
What are the root causes?
Okay, so get granular.
Yes.
Get specific.
Yes.
Got it.
Get down to the nitty-gritty.
Somewhat.
Then we need to analyze the data to understand the scope of the problem
Okay.
and identify potential solutions.
Okay.
This is where things get really interesting.
Because data can reveal like patterns and connections we might not have even noticed before.
Precisely.
Oh, I like that.
And then once we've identified potential solutions,
Right.
we need to use data to track progress,
Uh-huh.
measure impact, and make adjustments along the way.
Okay.
It's an iterative process.
So it's about constantly learning and adapting.
Exactly.
It's like having a real-time feedback loop, constantly tweaking and improving.
Yes.
But okay, let's get to the good stuff.
Okay.
The specific challenges.
Yes.
Dr. Heggie focuses on 6 grand challenges facing cities, right?
She does.
Okay.
Sustainability, health education, poverty security, and resource scarcity.
Oof.
Big ones.
Those are big.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating is how she connects each one back to social progress. Okay, so walk me through some of those connections. How does social progress actually help us tackle those grand challenges?
Okay.
Let's start with something like clean water and sanitation.
Okay.
How does that fit into the picture?
Well, on a very basic level, access to clean water and sanitation is essential for human health and well-being.
Okay.
But the book digs deeper,
Good.
pointing out that it also has a domino effect on other areas of social progress.
So it's like a building block.
Exactly. Think about it. If kids are constantly getting sick from contaminated water,
Uh-huh.
they're less likely to go to school,
Yeah.
impacting education levels.
Right.
Or if a community doesn't have proper sanitation, it can lead to outbreaks of disease,
Right.
further straining healthcare systems.
Wow. Yeah. It all starts to unravel pretty quickly.
And on the flip side, when we invest in clean water and sanitation,
Yeah.
we create a ripple effect of positive change.
Okay.
Healthier communities, better educational outcomes,
Uh-huh.
even economic benefits as people are able to work more productively.
Okay, so it's not just about providing a basic necessity.
Right.
It's about unlocking a whole chain of positive outcomes.
Exactly.
Okay, what about something like environmental quality? How does that tie into social progress?
Well, the book highlights this fascinating positive correlation between social progress and environmental quality.
Mm,
In other words, regions with higher social progress scores also tend to have better environmental conditions.
that makes sense.
Yes.
The more resources and awareness a community has,
Mm-hmm.
the more likely they are to prioritize environmental protection.
Exactly. And it creates this positive feedback loop.
Okay.
When people feel secure in their basic needs, they have the capacity to think about long-term sustainability.
Yeah.
And when the environment is healthy, it contributes to overall well-being.
It's like a win-win situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the book provides some really compelling examples of how cities have used data to drive improvements in both social progress and environmental quality. There's a map showing the relationship between air pollution and social progress within the EU.
Hold on, I have a question about that.
Okay.
How can we be sure it's social progress leading to better environmental quality and not the other way around?
Hmm.
Like, maybe cleaner environments simply lead to happier, healthier people.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And the book acknowledges that correlation doesn't equal causation.
Okay.
But what's interesting is that even when you account for factors like economic development, the link between social progress and environmental quality remains strong.
So it's suggesting that social progress plays a significant role even if it's not the only factor at play.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to invest in both simultaneously.
Okay.
We can't just focus on cleaning up the environment without addressing underlying social issues.
Because people living in poverty or facing discrimination are less likely to have the resources or the power to advocate for environmental change.
Exactly. And they're often the ones most impacted by environmental problems like pollution and climate change.
So it's not just about saving the planet, it's about saving people.
Precisely.
Wow.
And that's what makes this book so powerful.
Yeah.
It connects those dots in a way that I hadn't really considered before.
Yeah, I'm starting to see why this book is such a big deal. It's not just about data for data's sake.
Right.
It's about using data to understand the complex interplay between social and environmental issues
Yes.
and find solutions that benefit everyone.
Exactly.
I'm hooked. Tell me more about these inspiring stories.
Okay.
What are some examples that really jumped out at you?
One of the most fascinating examples is the correlation between cycling infrastructure and high social progress scores.
Hmm.
Cities that prioritize cycling tend to see positive impacts on health,
Okay.
environmental sustainability, and even social interaction.
You know, that reminds me of a time I visited Amsterdam.
Oh, yeah.
The bike culture there is incredible.
It's amazing.
Everyone cycles from young children to elderly folks.
Yeah.
And it just creates this amazing sense of community and energy.
Yeah. And it's not just about personal preference.
Right.
Cycling can have a real impact on a city's social fabric.
Okay.
When you're cycling, you're more connected to your surroundings, you're more likely to interact with other people, and you're experiencing the city in a more intimate way.
It's like cycling promotes this sense of belonging and shared experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the book delves into the data behind this, showing a clear link between bike-friendly cities and higher levels of social progress.
Wow. Okay, so maybe instead of focusing on grand solutions, Sometimes it's about creating those smaller, everyday shifts
Hmm.
that have a ripple effect on the whole system.
Exactly. And that's what's so exciting about this data-driven approach.
Yeah.
It can help us identify those leverage points, those
Mm.
seemingly small changes that can create a cascade of positive outcomes.
This is all so incredibly fascinating. But for now, let's take a quick break and come back to uncover even more insights from the future of cities. Okay, so we're back. And my brain is just buzzing with all these data-driven strategies for social progress.
Hmm.
But something you mentioned before the break really stuck with me.
Oh, yeah.
Those maps in the book showing variations in personal safety across the EU.
Ah, yes. Those are fascinating.
Yeah.
Dr. Heggie doesn't just map crime rates.
Right.
She layers in other data like access to basic needs and personal freedom.
Hmm.
It paints this really nuanced picture of what safety really means in a city.
So it's not just about being safe from crime.
Right.
It's about feeling a sense of security and well-being on a deeper level.
Exactly.
And what surprised me was that some regions with high personal safety scores,
Hmm.
they didn't necessarily have top marks for things like basic needs.
Now that's interesting.
Yeah, I would have thought those things would go hand in hand.
Yeah.
What do you think that is?
It really highlights how complex this issue is. Maybe those regions have strong social support networks
Okay.
or a culture of trust that compensates for economic disparities.
That makes me think about how important it is to look beyond the numbers sometimes.
Yeah.
Data can tell us a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't always capture the full human experience.
Absolutely. It's like Dr. Heggie says data is a tool,
Right.
not a solution.
Yeah.
We need to use it in conjunction with qualitative data,
Okay.
lived experiences, and community perspectives
Mhm.
to get a truly holistic understanding of a city.
So it's about marrying data with empathy and human insight.
Yeah.
But back to those maps for a second.
Okay.
What are some of the actionable takeaways for city leaders?
Well, one of the big ones is that investing in people's overall well-being tends to lead to safer cities.
That makes intuitive sense.
Uh,
But it's powerful to see it backed up by data.
yeah.
When people feel supported and have opportunities to thrive,
Mm-hmm.
they're less likely to resort to crime.
Exactly. It's not just about policing and punishment.
Right.
It's about addressing the root causes of crime and creating environments where everyone feels valued and respected.
Speaking of feeling valued and respected,
Yes.
Dr. Heggie also talks a lot about the importance of social network support, right?
She does.
Yeah.
And the data on this is pretty remarkable.
Okay.
There's a strong positive correlation between social network support and all sorts of well-being indicators, from life satisfaction
Okay.
to even life expectancy.
Hold on. You're telling me that having strong social connections can actually help you live longer?
The data suggests that yes, people who feel connected to their community tend to be happier,
Yeah.
healthier, and more resilient. It's like having a built-in support system to help you navigate life's challenges.
Wow, that's amazing. I've always been a big believer in the power of community,
Yeah.
but it's incredible to see it validated by science.
And the book dives into how city leaders can actually foster that sense of community.
Okay.
It's about creating spaces and opportunities for people to connect,
Yeah.
whether that's public parks, community centers, or even just events that bring people together.
It's like designing a city for connection. I love that.
And it's not just about physical spaces either.
Yeah.
The book also explores the role of technology in building social connections. Online forums, social media groups, even apps designed to connect people with shared interests.
Okay.
They can all play a role in creating that sense of belonging.
Okay, so we've got the data telling us what's working and what's not.
Right.
And we've got all these potential solutions to explore.
Yeah.
But how do we move from data to action?
Mm-hmm.
How do we actually implement these changes
Yeah.
in a meaningful way?
Well, Dr. Heggie talks a lot about the importance of citizen science and community engagement.
Okay.
It's not just about experts dictating solutions from on high.
Right.
It's about involving people in the process, gathering their insights, their experiences, and their ideas to create solutions that truly work for the community.
So it's about empowering people to be part of the solution. I like that.
And it's about being transparent with data,
Okay.
making it accessible and understandable for everyone, not just policymakers and academics.
Because at the end of the day, data is only as good as the actions it inspires.
Precisely. It's not just about collecting numbers.
Right.
It's about using them to drive positive change in the real world.
Well said. And speaking of driving positive change,
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear more about the book's insights on education.
Education.
Yeah.
It's such a foundational piece of social progress.
Mm.
And the book really dives deep on this topic.
Right.
One of the most striking findings is this strong negative correlation between access to basic knowledge and early school leaving rates.
So in areas where access to quality education is limited,
Yeah.
more young people are dropping out of school.
Exactly. It highlights the need for early intervention
Mm.
and making sure all children, regardless of background, have the resources they need to succeed.
It's like we're setting them up for failure if we don't provide that foundation.
And the book emphasizes that this is not just about individual outcomes.
Right.
It's about the well-being of society as a whole.
Yeah.
A more educated population leads to greater innovation, economic growth, and civic engagement.
It's an investment in the future, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And the book pushes us to think beyond traditional models of education.
Okay.
It's not just about rote memorization.
Hmm.
It's about fostering critical thinking, problem-solving skills,
Right.
and the ability to adapt to a rapidly changing world.
So it's about equipping young people with the tools they need to not just survive, but thrive in the 21st century.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the book offers some really interesting examples of how cities are using data to personalize education,
Okay.
identify students who are struggling,
Yeah.
and tailor interventions to meet their specific needs.
That's so important because every child is different.
Yes,
And a one-size-fits-all approach to education just doesn't work.
absolutely. And the book really underscores the need for data-driven strategies to create more equitable and effective education systems.
Okay, so we've talked about safety, community education.
Yeah,
Dr. Hagee doesn't shy away from the tough topics, does she?
she does not.
And one of the most impactful sections of the book for me was her discussion of poverty.
Yeah.
She doesn't just present statistics,
Right.
she really humanizes the issue,
Uh-huh.
sharing stories of people living in poverty and giving a voice to those who are often marginalized and forgotten.
Yeah, giving a voice to the voiceless.
You know, I think that's so crucial.
It is.
It's easy to get caught up in numbers and forget that each data point represents a real person
Yes.
with hopes and dreams and struggles.
Absolutely. And the book argues that poverty isn't just an individual problem.
Right.
It's a systemic issue that requires systemic solutions.
Hmm.
It's about addressing the root causes of poverty.
Okay.
Things like lack of access to education, healthcare, and affordable housing.
So it's about creating a more just and equitable society where everyone has a fair shot at a good life.
Exactly.
I like that.
And the book explores a wide range of strategies for doing that,
Okay.
from social safety nets and job training programs
Uh-huh.
to initiatives aimed at empowering marginalized communities.
And of course, data plays a key role in all of this.
It does. It helps us understand the complex dynamics of poverty,
Mm-hmm.
track the effectiveness of different interventions,
Right.
and ensure that resources are allocated where they are most needed.
It's about using data to create a more targeted and impactful approach to poverty alleviation.
Exactly.
And the book provides some really inspiring examples of cities around the world that are doing just that.
Yeah.
They're using data to create more equitable access to opportunities,
Yeah.
break down systemic barriers, and empower people to lift themselves out of poverty.
It's incredible what they're doing.
This is all so encouraging. It's like
Yeah.
we're starting to see the outlines of a world where everyone has the chance to thrive,
Yeah.
but I'm realizing we've only scratched the surface of this book.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much more to unpack.
There is, and I'm excited to dive into some of the other themes Dr. Hagee explores.
Me too. But for now, let's take another quick break.
Okay.
We'll be right back with more insights from the future of cities. Okay, so we are back. And in this book, The Future of Cities, wow, it has really shifted my perspective on how we approach urban challenges.
Yeah.
It's not just about those big sweeping solutions,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know? It's about those smaller strategic interventions
Mhm.
that have a ripple effect across the whole system.
It's like a domino effect, right?
Yeah.
You nudge one thing, and it sets off this chain reaction of positive change.
Yeah.
And Dr. Hagee, she really drives home the point that data is key
Right.
to identifying those leverage points.
You're like having a treasure map.
Yeah.
But instead of leading to gold, it leads to a better future for our cities.
I love that analogy.
But before we get too carried away with all the possibilities, I'm
Yeah.
curious,
Yeah.
does the book address the potential downsides of a data-driven approach? Like privacy concerns, for example.
It absolutely does.
Okay, good.
Dr. Hagee acknowledges that data can be misused
Mm-hmm.
and emphasizes the importance of ethical data collection and privacy protection.
So it's not just about collecting as much data as possible.
Right.
It's about being mindful of how we use it and who has access to it.
Exactly.
Got
And
it.
it's about ensuring that data is used to empower communities, not control them.
Okay, good. Because I think there's a lot of skepticism out there about big data
Yeah.
and how it's being used.
Uh-huh.
But it sounds like Dr. Hagee is advocating for a more, like, responsible and ethical approach.
She is. And she even suggests that involving communities in the data collection and analysis process can help build trust
Mm.
and ensure that data is used in a way that benefits everyone.
That makes sense. When people feel like they have a voice and a stake in how data is being used,
Right.
they're more likely to buy into the process.
Yeah.
But, okay, let's circle back to the grand challenges. Is there anything else that really stood out to you in terms of how social progress can help us tackle these, like, big, hairy problems?
You know, one of the most thought-provoking parts of the book for me
Uh-huh.
was her discussion of how data can be used to challenge our assumptions.
Oh, I love that. We can get so stuck in our own ways of thinking.
Yeah.
Data can help us break out of those mental boxes and see the world with fresh eyes. Yeah.
Exactly. And she gives this great example
Bet.
of the relationship between economic growth and social progress.
Mm.
We often assume that as a city's economy grows, everyone benefits.
Right.
But Dr. Hagee's research shows that's not always the case.
So economic growth doesn't automatically translate into a better quality of life for all.
Not necessarily. The book highlights that even in cities with booming economies, you can still have pockets of poverty, inequality, and social exclusion. It's
Right.
not just about how much money a city has.
Right.
It's about how that money is distributed and invested.
Okay, so maybe we need to rethink our definition of progress. It's
Yeah.
not just about bigger GDP numbers.
Right.
It's about creating a more equitable and just society for everyone.
Exactly.
And that's where data can be so powerful.
Yes.
They can help us track those investments,
Yeah.
measure their impact,
Yeah.
and hold our leaders accountable
Yeah.
for creating real and lasting social change.
It's about accountability.
It's about making sure that everyone has the opportunity to share in the prosperity,
Yeah.
not just a select few.
Precisely. And Dr. Heggie provides some really compelling examples of cities that are using data to do just that.
Okay.
They're investing in affordable housing,
Okay.
creating pathways to good-paying jobs, and tackling systemic barriers that prevent people from reaching their full potential.
This is all so inspiring,
It is.
but I have to admit, I'm also feeling a little overwhelmed.
Yeah,
There's so much to do.
it's a lot.
Where do we even begin?
I know it can feel daunting.
Yeah.
But I think the most important thing is to just start somewhere. Pick one issue that you're passionate about
Uh-huh.
and start exploring how data can be used to make a difference.
Okay.
Dr. Heggie's book is a great starting point,
Yeah.
but there are also so many other resources available online and in your local community.
So it's about taking that first step, even if it's a small one,
Yeah, just take that first step.
and then trusting that the data will guide us along the way.
Exactly. And remember, social progress is a journey,
Hmm.
not a destination.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing process of learning, adapting, and collaborating
Uh-huh.
to create a better future for all.
Beautifully said, and I think that's the perfect note to end on.
Yeah.
This conversation has been so insightful and inspiring, and I hope our listeners are feeling energized and empowered to make a difference in their own communities.
Me too, and I hope they'll pick up a copy of The Future of Cities and continue this exploration.
Yes, it's a must-read for anyone who cares about building a more just and equitable future. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.